So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you how to attract money to you almost like a magnet. And I'm going to be exposing the hidden dynamics of leverage and power in business meetings. So when I was a little kid, I noticed that there were certain people in my neighborhood that tend to have more money than our family. And they had bigger cars, they had bigger houses. And then I went to Dubai and I saw a whole different world at the age of 14, where people were driving Ferraris and had penthouses, etc. And I never could really understand what made this happen. And I was confused for a long periods of time. And I thought that the only way you can make it is by going to Harvard, Stanford, or Cambridge University, or inheriting it. And I didn't understand why certain people were getting richer and richer, and why in certain meetings, money always tends to flow in one direction. And I didn't understand what the hell was going on. And then as I grew up and I started to study more and more, I started to, until recently, there were certain things I didn't understand. And then I figured out that there are underlying hidden dynamics of power that were at play that I could not notice. And this happened when I was going and meeting a lot of healthcare business owners into their clinics to negotiate multi-million-dollar deals. And I was having conversations with a lot of experienced executives in Dubai. And these guys have been in C-suite positions in hundreds of millions of dollars companies and even billion-dollar companies. And what would happen is that as soon as I would enter the meeting, I would have a loss of power in my body, and they would have all the authority, and I would just kind of lose my voice and lose my ground completely. And I was not even able to carry myself through the meeting without, jittering or, talking over myself, and, like all kinds of weird things were happening. And they tend to, I was losing a lot of meetings, and I didn't understand what the hell was going on. How do I correct this? Because it's taking me like so many meetings to get what I want. And as I started to do more and more meetings, I started to notice that I was becoming more and more grounded. And something weird tended to happen where I reached a point and a position where I had the leverage, and people would start to feel reactive around me. And I wanted to analyze this phenomena that just had occurred. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and this can help you make a lot of money and understand how a lot of money is made, or why certain people keep getting a lot of money in a disproportionate manner, like out of proportion, and how it's easy for them. And really the hidden secret here is leverage. Who has got leverage in the conversation? Who has got leverage in that business meeting? And leverage is anything that is valuable that you have, either you control or you own or you know of or you have, something that's of value to the person sitting in front of you, more than the money that they have in their pocket. So if you have leverage of that kind, and you have an understanding of their needs, and you can structure that value that you have around their needs, then you have tremendous amount of leverage in that conversation, because you essentially control what they want. And then the money most assuredly will move towards you. And leverage can be multifaceted. It can be of many forms, and there can be a combination of things. For example, knowledge is one form of leverage. Skill is one form of leverage. Whether knowledge or skill was acquired through a university or a real life experience, it doesn't matter. As long as there is someone in front of you, or a market in general values that knowledge and skill, you have got leverage. Connections can be a leverage. Looks can be a leverage. You can see this with women. Certain types of beautiful women, charismatic women, if they enter into a meeting, they immediately have attention and leverage. and that's a leverage. Celebrities have this leverage about looks, right? Their face has that visual appeal in the industry of media. So that can be a form of leverage, and these tend to be intangible. Experience is another one, where you have experience of something rare that most people have not seen, and that could be a form of leverage. And it could be a combination of these. Then you have got, these are intangible and more soft forms of leverage. Then you have got hard leverage, which is real estate, a company that you own, a land, anything that is physical in nature and is valuable in the marketplace. Food, there's something that the skill of cooking would be intangible and food itself would be tangible. So there are intangible and tangible leverage, and actually in financial terms, these are also known as assets. And I never really thought about knowledge, experience, and connections as assets. I always thought that, real estate and owning a company is an asset, but knowledge, experience, even creativity can be an asset, an intangible asset. Anything that can be used to produce money can be an asset. And I didn't know that it can actually qualify in accounting terms as asset. I didn't know that. I found out about it recently, that when there is a medical clinic or a legal law practice, if you look at their balance sheet in the asset and liability column, you would see in assets there are intangibles. Maybe they have certain patents, their knowledge and experience that they have that they're leveraging to make money, and that can be a form of asset. And another form of lack of leverage can be when you don't know you have leverage. So I was walking into business meetings in Dubai, and I did not know where my leverage was. I did not even know I had leverage, because from my perspective, I was seeing these people, I was meeting these people, and I was saying that, these guys have so much experience, so much credibility, such a big standing in the marketplace, and so much more experience than me. How can I have leverage? How can I sort of lead them, talk to them, structure business partnerships with them? Because they just have so much leverage over me than I have over them. And yet these people were saying yes to me, and I didn't understand why that is. And then I discovered, I had an epiphany, and I realized that my biggest leverage was my age. And it's weird because I'm young and these guys are older, and in the corporate world, experience is valued. But as a young man, I've got time. And by definition, if they have a lot of experience, they have invested a lot of time to gain that experience. So I didn't know what was my value add, and I realized my value add was the time and energy. And they would give everything that they have to be as young as me. I remember, I think Bill Gates once said that he would give every single penny that he has to be young again. I think it was Bill Gates or some rich guy who said that, I would give any penny to be in your position. And he was talking to someone young. And because the most valuable asset in this world is time. And so when I discovered that, this is what I bring on. They bring in experience and I will put myself on the line. And not only that I have time, I'm not married, I don't have kids, and I have a lot more time than what a man generally would have. And I also have this knowledge that I acquired from doing over 44 courses, and the skills that I developed over time. And it's not just about doing courses, it's also implementation of that, and the time that I had to invest to develop that skill. And then I started to find my leverage, and I started to become more and more grounded in business meetings. I had more leverage, and I could make use of that leverage to gain benefits. And you have to have leverage. And sometimes you do have leverage, but you don't know it, because you have to do some thinking and you have to do some digging. And if you want to know where your leverage lies and where your value lies, you have to analyze since childhood where you happen to spend your time in. What area did you spend a lot of time in? And typically it's the thing that we love, and typically if we have spent a lot of time around that area, we have developed skills and understanding and knowledge that a lot of people don't have in that area, and our leverage tend to be there. And it's not just about discovering where you spend most of the time, but also extracting the information out of it and combining it in a form that is more refined and organized, so then it actually develops over time. And then you can start adding other forms of leverage like connections, etc. So one thing that you need to make a lot of money is leverage. You have to have leverage. But having leverage alone is not enough, because you may have leverage, but you're not talking to a lot of people. So once you have leverage, second thing is exposure. You have to expose yourself as fast as possible to as many people as possible who need that thing that you have. It could be anything that's valuable to these group of people. And this is where leverage meets technology, right? So there is a girl, who is not discovered yet. She's a beautiful girl. She has this beautiful visual appeal, right? And she's a perfect candidate to be an actress, but she hasn't been discovered yet. So she has got leverage, but she doesn't have exposure. And then she makes a connection with someone who has exposure, who has access to distributors, who has got media channels. He's connected to media channels, and he has access to tremendous amounts of eyeballs and exposure. And these two people meet and they strike a deal, and suddenly that leverage gets exposed and all the money starts flowing to this celebrity. And that's what happens when you combine leverage with exposure. And it doesn't always have to be an exposure to masses, but there has to be some form of exposure, because money ultimately comes from people, and you have to expose yourself and you have to expose the leverage that you have to be able to make money. And that's today's video. I'll talk to you soon.